The train's whistle screamed, a piercing cry that split the Wyoming dusk. But Elias Kane didn't flinch. He stood on the platform, his polished shoes gleaming, his heart pounding louder than the engine's roar. Someone had taken his seat. His private car, his sanctuary, his empire on rails. And he was about to find out who. Elias, 28, was no ordinary man. Lean, with sharp cheekbones and eyes like storm clouds, he'd built Kane railways from a single track in Montana to a sprawling network across the West. The son of a disgraced merchant, he'd clawed his way up, fueled by ambition and a secret he guarded like gold. He was gay, and in 1890s America, that truth could ruin him faster than a derailed train. His private car, the Obsidian, was his haven, a place where he could breathe, away from the world's judging eyes. Now some fool had breached it. He stormed toward the train, his tailored suit cutting through the crowd of dusty travelers. The platform smelled of coal and sweat, the air thick with anticipation. Elias's assistant, Clara, a wiry woman in her 40s with a no-nonsense braid, jogged to keep up. "Mr. Kane, it's just a mix-up," she said, clutching a ledger. "The conductor swears he didn't know." "Didn't know?" Elias snapped, his voice low but venomous. "That car is mine. I paid for it with blood and sleepless nights. Find out who's in there, Clara, or I'll do it myself." She nodded, scurrying ahead as the train's bell clanged. Elias adjusted his cufflinks, a nervous habit, and boarded the carriage. The Obsidian's interior was a masterpiece. Mahogany paneling, velvet curtains, a crystal decanter glinting on a side table. But there, sprawled across his leather seat like he owned it, was a man who looked carved from the Wyoming plains. The stranger was 29, broad-shouldered, with sun-bleached hair peeking from under a worn Stetson. His flannel shirt strained against his chest, and his boots, caked with red dust, rested carelessly on the oak table. He was reading a tattered book, oblivious to Elias's entrance, his lips moving slightly as if savoring the words. Something about him, maybe the ease, maybe the defiance, made Elias's pulse stutter. "Who the hell are you?" Elias demanded, his voice slicing through the quiet. The man looked up, his green eyes steady, unperturbed. "Name's Rowan Holt," he said, his drawl slow as molasses. "And this seat's mighty comfortable." Elias bristled. "That's my car. Get out." Rowan raised an eyebrow, closing his book with a deliberate snap. "Your car? Conductor said this was open. Paid my fare. Same as you." Clara burst in, breathless. "Mr. Kane, the conductor's apologies. He thought the car was unreserved. Mr. Holt here. Mr. Holt can find another seat." Elias cut in, his gaze locked on Rowan. The rancher didn't budge, his eyes glinting with something between amusement and challenge. "Seems we got a problem," Rowan said, leaning back. "I ain't one for move in once I'm settled." Elias's hands clenched. He wasn't used to defiance. Men bent to his will, investors, workers, even governors. Yet this cowboy, with his lazy grin and dirt-streaked boots, was unmoved. The air between them crackled, charged with something Elias couldn't name. Before he could retort, the train lurched violently. Glass shattered as the decanter hit the floor. Clara screamed, and Elias grabbed the wall for balance. The wheels screeched, and the world tilted. The train had stopped, dead on the tracks. Panic erupted outside. Passengers shouted, their voices muffled through the Obsidian's thick walls. Elias pushed past Rowan, ignoring the brush of their shoulders, and flung open the door. Smoke billowed from the engine, and the conductor, A stout man named Perkins was sprinting toward them. "Sabotage!" Perkins yelled, his face ashen. "Someone cut the brake lines. We're stuck till it's fixed." Elias's mind raced. Sabotage? His enemies were many. Rival tycoons, disgruntled workers, even politicians he'd outmaneuvered. But this felt personal. His car invaded, his train halted. It was a message. He turned to Rowan, suspicion flaring. "You," he said. "You show up, take my seat, and now this?" Rowan stood, towering over Elias despite their similar height. "You think I'd wreck a train I'm riding on? Use your head, city boy." The nickname stung, but Elias held his ground. "Then why are you here? In my car?" Rowan's jaw tightened, and for a moment, his bravado slipped. "Needed to get to Cheyenne. Fast. Ain't no crime in that." Elias narrowed his eyes. There was a story behind those words, one Rowan wasn't telling. But before he could press, Clara tugged his sleeve. "Sir, we need to secure the passengers. The engineer says it'll take hours to repair." Elias nodded, his mind split between the crisis and the man standing too close. "Fine. But you," he pointed at Rowan. "Stay where I can see you." Rowan smirked. "Wouldn't dream of leaving." The next hour was chaos. Elias worked with Perkins to calm the passengers, promising refunds and safety. The Wyoming plains stretched endlessly around them, the sun dipping low, casting long shadows. Rowan, to Elias's annoyance, pitched in, helping an elderly woman with her luggage and calming a crying child. His ease with people, his quiet strength, grated on Elias. He didn't trust it. As night fell, the train remained stranded. Elias retreated to the Obsidian, where Rowan was already waiting, nursing a glass of Elias's whiskey. "You got taste," Rowan said, raising the glass. "That's mine," Elias said, snatching it back. Their fingers brushed, and a jolt ran through him, unwanted, unsettling. He stepped back, glaring. "What's your game, Holt?" "No game," Rowan said, his voice softer now. "Just a man trying to get somewhere." Elias didn't buy it. But as they sat, the car lit only by a flickering lamp, Rowan started talking. He was a rancher from a small spread near Laramie, fighting to keep his land from a greedy cattle baron named Whitaker. Elias knew the type men like Whitaker had tried to strong-arm him too. Against his better judgment, he listened, drawn in by Rowan's quiet passion, the way his eyes lit up when he spoke of his horses, his home. "You ever lose something you built?" Rowan asked, his gaze piercing. Elias thought of his railways, his dreams, the secrets he buried. "Every day," he said, surprising himself. For a moment, they just looked at each other. The train was still, the world outside silent. Then Clara burst in, her face pale. "Mr. Kane, we found something. A letter, addressed to you." Elias took the crumpled paper, his heart sinking. Scrawled in black ink were the words, "Your empire falls tonight." Elias's hands shook as he read the letter again, the words searing into his mind. The Obsidian's dim light cast shadows across Rowan's face, his expression unreadable. Outside, the Wyoming night was thick with tension, the stranded train a sitting duck in the vast, empty plains. "Who'd want you dead?" Rowan asked, his voice low, almost gentle. Elias crumpled the letter, his jaw tight. "Plenty of people," he said. "You don't build an empire without making enemies." He thought of Whitaker, the cattle baron Rowan had mentioned, or perhaps Leland Carver, a rival tycoon who'd lost a fortune when Elias outbid him for a critical rail line. But this felt too precise, too personal. Clara hovered by the door, her eyes darting between them. "Sir, the conductor's organizing a search of the train. They think whoever did this might still be on board." Elias nodded, his mind racing. "Tell Perkins to double the guards. No one leaves or boards until we know more." Clara hurried out, leaving him alone with Rowan again. The air felt heavier now, charged with suspicion and something else Elias refused to name. "You don't trust me?" Rowan said, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. "I get it. Rich man like you, everyone's a threat." Elias met his gaze, unflinching. "You're in my car, drinking my whiskey, after my train's been sabotaged. Tell me why I shouldn't suspect you." Rowan's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "'Cause I got no reason to hurt you. I'm just a rancher trying to save what's mine. Whitaker's men are breathing down my neck, and I needed this train to get to Cheyenne for a land deed hearing. That's my truth." Elias wanted to believe him. There was a raw honesty in Rowan's voice, a vulnerability that tugged at something deep inside him. But trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. "We'll see," he said, standing. "Stay here. I'm checking the train myself." Rowan rose, his height filling the space. "Not alone, you ain't. If someone's gunning for you, you need eyes you can trust." "And those are yours?" Elias scoffed, but his heart wasn't in it. Rowan's steady gaze, the way he jumped in to help the passengers, made Elias question his instincts. "Better mine than no one's," Rowan said, grabbing his hat. "Lead the way, Tycoon." They moved through the train, carriage by carriage, the air thick with the scent of oil and fear. Passengers huddled in their seats, whispering about bandits or ghosts. Elias's presence calmed them. He was their Tycoon, their savior, but his own nerves were frayed. Rowan stayed close, his broad frame a quiet reassurance, though Elias hated admitting it. In the baggage car, they found the first clue. A toolbox, its contents scattered, and a pair of shears coated with hydraulic fluid. "Brake lines?" Rowan muttered, crouching to inspect them. Someone knew exactly what to cut. Elias's stomach twisted. This wasn't random. "They wanted us stranded," he said. "But why?" Rowan stood, dusting his hands. "You tell me. Who'd profit from your train sittin' dead?" Elias's mind flashed to Carver again. The man had vowed revenge after losing that rail line, and he had the resources to pull this off. But something didn't fit. Carver was ruthless, but he played in boardrooms, not with shears and sabotage. They continued searching, their shoulders brushing in the narrow corridors. Each touch sent a spark through Elias, one he pushed down hard. He couldn't afford distractions, not now. But Rowan's presence, steady, unshakable, was hard to ignore. In the dining car, they found another clue. A scrap of paper tucked under a table, with a crude map of the train's route and a circled spot, the exact place they'd stopped. Elias's blood ran cold. "This was planned," he said, showing it to Rowan. "They knew where we'd be." Rowan's eyes darkened. "Sounds like someone's watching you close." Before Elias could respond, a scream tore through the train. They ran toward the sound, bursting into the third-class carriage. A young woman, maybe 20, stood trembling, pointing at a man slumped in his seat. Blood pooled beneath him, his throat cut clean. Elias froze, the world narrowing to that crimson stain. Rowan cursed under his breath, pulling Elias back. "Don't touch him," he said. "We need to secure this car." The passengers were in chaos, some crying, others shoving toward the exits. Elias snapped into action, his voice cutting through the panic. "Everyone, stay calm. Back to your seats." His authority held, and the crowd stilled, though fear hung heavy. Rowan knelt by the body, checking for signs of life. "He's gone," he said, his voice grim. "No wallet, no papers. Whoever did this didn't want him identified." Elias's mind spun. A murder, a sabotage train, a threatening letter, all tied to him. "This isn't just about stopping the train," he said. "Someone wants to destroy me." Rowan stood, his hand grazing Elias's arm. "Then we find him first." They spent the next hour questioning passengers, but no one had seen anything. The conductor locked the body in a storage car, and Elias ordered extra lanterns to light the train. The night felt like a trap, the plains outside endless and unforgiving. Back in the Obsidian, Elias poured himself a whiskey, his hands still shaking. Rowan watched him, his expression softer now. "You're carrying too much," he said. "This empire of yours, it's eaten you alive." Elias laughed bitterly. "You don't know the half of it." He thought of the secrets he hid, the nights he lay awake, terrified someone would uncover who he really was. Being gay in his world wasn't just a scandal, it was a death sentence. Rowan leaned closer, his voice barely a whisper. "I know what it's like to hide, Elias. To live like you're always one step from losing everything." Elias's breath caught. Was Rowan saying what he thought? He searched the rancher's face, finding no judgment, only understanding. For the first time in years, Elias felt seen, not as a tycoon but as a man. Before he could speak, Clara burst in, her face flushed. "Sir, we found something else. In the engine room, a device wired to explode." Elias's heart stopped. A bomb. This wasn't just sabotage. Someone wanted them all dead. The engine room was a maze of pipes and gears, the air thick with coal dust and dread. Elias and Rowan stood over the device, a tangle of wires and dynamite, crudely rigged but deadly. The engineer, a grizzled man named Amos, wiped sweat from his brow. "It's a miracle it didn't go off," he said. "One wrong move, and we're all ash." Elias's mind raced. The letter, the murder, the sabotage, now a bomb. Someone wasn't just targeting him. They wanted to erase him, his train, his legacy. He glanced at Rowan, who was studying the device with a focus that made Elias's chest tighten. The rancher's hands, calloused and steady, traced the wires without fear. "You know explosives?" Elias asked, trying to keep his voice even. "Ranch life ain't all horses and sunsets," Rowan said, not looking up. "Had to blast rock to dig wells. This here's sloppy work, but it'll kill just fine." Amos nodded. "We can't move the train till it's disarmed. One jolt could set it off." Elias cursed under his breath. Every minute they were stranded, the danger grew. He turned to Rowan. "Can you do it?" Rowan met his eyes, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. "Maybe, but if I mess up, we're done." Elias swallowed hard. He didn't know this man, not really. Yet in the chaos, Rowan was the only one he trusted. "Do it," he said. "I'll stay." Rowan's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Get everyone else out of here." Elias sent Amos to clear the engine room, then stood by Rowan, the ticking of the device like a heartbeat in the silence. Rowan worked methodically, his fingers deft despite the tension. Elias watched, mesmerized by the rancher's calm, the way his brow furrowed in concentration. For a moment, he forgot the danger, caught in the curve of Rowan's lips, the strength in his hands. "Stop staring," Rowan muttered, a faint smile breaking through. "You're making me nervous." Elias flushed, turning away. "Just making sure you don't blow us up." Rowan chuckled, but the sound died as he snipped a wire. The device clicked, and Elias's heart stopped. then nothing. Rowan exhaled, wiping his brow. Think we're good. Elias let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. You're insane, he said, but there was no venom in it. He wanted to say more, to thank him, but the words caught in his throat. Rowan stood, brushing dust from his jeans. You owe me a drink, Tycoon. With the bomb disarmed, Elias focused on the next crisis, finding the culprit. He and Rowan returned to the Obsidian, where Clara was waiting with a stack of passenger manifests. I've cross-checked everyone, she said. Most are locals, but there's a man, John Doe, no papers, who boarded at the last stop. Elias's eyes narrowed. The murdered man had no papers either. Could be a connection. Rowan leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. Or a distraction. Whoever's doing this is smart. They're keeping us guessing. Elias nodded, his mind spinning. He needed answers, but the train was a pressure cooker. Passengers scared, crew on edge, and a killer loose. He turned to Clara. Get Perkins. We're searching every inch of this train again. As Clara left, Rowan stepped closer, his voice low. You're pushing yourself too hard, Elias. You can't carry this alone. Elias wanted to snap back, to say he'd built his empire alone. But Rowan's concern stopped him. There was no pity in his eyes, just a quiet strength that made Elias feel exposed. I don't have a choice, he said finally. This is my train, my responsibility. Rowan's hand grazed his shoulder, a brief touch that sent warmth through him. You got me now, like it or not. Elias's breath hitched. He wanted to pull away, to rebuild the walls he'd spent years perfecting. But Rowan's gaze held him, and for a moment, he let himself imagine a world where he didn't have to hide. The moment shattered when Perkins burst in, his face pale. Sir, we found something in the baggage car, a ledger hidden in a crate. It's got your name on it. Elias took the leather-bound book, his fingers trembling as he opened it. Inside were records of his deals, his bribes, his secrets, everything that could destroy him. And at the bottom of one page, in the same scrawl as the threatening letter, you can't run forever. The ledger was a knife to Elias's heart. Someone had been watching him, collecting his sins. He thought of every deal he'd made, every corner he'd cut to build Kane Railways. He wasn't a saint, but he wasn't a monster. Yet this ledger painted him as one. Rowan read over his shoulder, his silence heavy. This why they're after you? He asked finally. Elias slammed the book shut. I don't know, but whoever did this knows too much. They searched the baggage car again, finding nothing but crates and dust. The passengers were growing restless, and Elias felt the weight of their fear. He was their leader, but he was unraveling. Rowan stayed close, his presence a lifeline Elias didn't want to need. As dawn broke, painting the plains in pink and gold, Clara returned with news. We found a witness, she said. A boy, maybe 15, saw a man near the engine before we stopped. He's scared, but he'll talk. Elias and Rowan followed her to a quiet corner of the third-class car, where a skinny boy with wide eyes sat clutching a cap. He was tall, the boy stammered. Dark coat, scar on his cheek. He was messin' with the engine, then ran off. Elias's blood ran cold. A scar. He knew that description, Vincent Malloy, Carver's enforcer. But why would Carver risk this? It didn't add up. Rowan crouched beside the boy, his voice gentle. You did good, kid. You see where he went. The boy shook his head, tears welling. I was scared. I hid. Elias's heart ached for the boy, but his mind was on Malloy. If Carver was behind this, he'd gone too far. We need to find him, Elias said. Now. Rowan stood, his hand brushing Elias's back. We will. But you need to breathe, Elias. You're no good to anyone if you break. Elias wanted to argue, but Rowan's touch grounded him. For the first time, he didn't feel alone. The train was a powder keg, and Elias was running out of time. The passengers' fear had turned to anger, their whispers accusing him of failing them. He stood in the dining car, addressing the crowd, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. We're working to get you home, he said. Stay calm and we'll move soon. Rowan stood at his side, his presence a quiet anchor. Elias hated how much he needed it. After the speech, they retreated to the obsidian, where the ledger lay like a curse on the table. Elias stared at it, his past laid bare. Every deal, every compromise. If this gets out, he said, I'm finished. Rowan sat across from him, his eyes soft but unflinching. Then we make sure it doesn't. You're not the only one with secrets, Elias. Elias's heart skipped. He wanted to ask, to know what Rowan hid, but fear stopped him. Instead, he focused on the hunt for Malloy. The boy's description was their only lead, but the train was a labyrinth, and Malloy could be anywhere. Clara burst in, her face flushed. Sir, the engineer's ready to test the repairs. But there's something else. A passenger saw a man matching the boy's description near the rear cars. Elias and Rowan moved fast, weaving through the train. The rear cars were dim, the air stale. They searched every corner, every shadow, until Rowan grabbed Elias's arm. There, he whispered, pointing to a figure slipping into a storage car. They crept closer, Elias's pulse pounding. The door creaked as they entered, revealing crates stacked high. A man turned, his face scarred and cold, Vincent Malloy. He held a knife, its blade glinting in the lantern light. Cain, Malloy sneered. You're harder to kill than I thought. Elias stepped forward, his fear buried under rage. Why? What does Carver want? Malloy laughed, a hollow sound. Carver? He's just a pawn. This is bigger than you know. Before Elias could process that, Malloy lunged. Rowan moved faster, tackling him to the ground. The knife skittered across the floor, and Elias grabbed it, his hands shaking. Rowan pinned Malloy, his strength overwhelming. Talk, Rowan growled. Who's behind this? Malloy spat, his eyes wild. You'll find out when you're dead. Elias's blood boiled. He wanted answers, but Malloy's defiance was a wall. Rowan tied him up with rope from a crate, his movements swift and sure. We'll get him to talk, Rowan said, his voice calm but deadly. They dragged Malloy to the obsidian, locking him in a closet. Elias's mind was a storm. Carver a pawn? Then who was pulling the strings? He thought of the ledger, the bomb, the murder. It was all connected, but the puzzle was incomplete. Rowan touched his shoulder, grounding him again. You're not alone in this, he said. Whatever's comin', we face it together. Elias looked into his eyes, seeing not just strength but something deeper, care, maybe even love. Terrified him, but it also gave him courage. Thank you, he whispered, the words foreign on his tongue. The train lurched as the engineer tested the repairs, a hopeful sign. Elias and Rowan questioned Malloy, but he gave nothing but taunts. Frustrated, Elias turned to the ledger, searching for clues. One entry caught his eye, a deal with a man named Harrow, a shadowy figure he'd paid to secure a route through Colorado. Harrow had disappeared after the deal, but the ledger noted his ties to a group called the Syndicate. The Syndicate, Elias muttered. He'd heard whispers of them. a network of power brokers who operated in the shadows, manipulating markets, men, and empires. If they were behind this, his enemies were far bigger than he'd imagined. Rowan frowned. Heard of them? Bad news. They don't just want your train, they want your head. Elias's stomach churned. He'd built cane railways to prove himself, to rise above his father's failures. Now it could all be ashes. But Rowan's hand on his, warm and steady, pulled him back. We'll fight, Rowan said. You and me. Elias wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at him. He was a man who thrived on control, yet everything was slipping away. Except Rowan. He was the one thing Elias couldn't predict, couldn't control, and didn't want to. As the train began to move, a cheer rose from the passengers. Elias felt no relief. The danger was still out there, and Malloy's words echoed. This is bigger than you know. Night fell again, the train rumbling through the plains. Elias and Rowan sat in the obsidian, the ledger between them. The silence was heavy, but not uncomfortable. Elias felt a pull toward Rowan, a need to close the distance between them. He fought it, but his heart was louder than his fear. Why do you stay? Elias asked, his voice barely above a whisper. You could have walked away. Rowan leaned closer, his eyes locking on Elias's. 'Cause I see you, Elias. Not the Tycoon, not the Empire. You. And I ain't leaving you to face this alone. Elias's breath caught. He'd spent years hiding, building walls no one could breach. But Rowan saw through them, and for the first time, Elias didn't want to hide. He reached out, his hand trembling, and touched Rowan's cheek. The rancher didn't pull away. Their lips met, tentative at first, then desperate. It was a kiss born of fear and longing, of two men who'd found each other in a world that wanted them broken. Elias felt alive, whole, for the first time in years. The train's whistle screamed, shattering the moment. Clara burst in, her face pale. Sir, it's Malloy, he's gone. The closet's empty. Elias's heart sank. The fight wasn't over. Elias's world tilted as Clara's words sank in. Malloy, gone. The closet door hung open, the ropes cut clean. Rowan cursed, checking the lock. Someone let him out, he said, his voice tight. We got a traitor on this train. Elias's mind raced. The syndicate, the ledger, the bomb. Everything pointed to a conspiracy that reached deeper than he'd feared. He looked at Rowan, his heart still racing from their kiss, and felt a surge of determination. He wouldn't let this destroy them. Clara, get Perkins, Elias said. Lock down the train. No one moves until we find Malloy. She nodded, sprinting off. Rowan grabbed Elias's arm, his eyes fierce. We end this now. Together. Elias nodded, the weight of Rowan's words anchoring him. They searched the train again, moving like hunters through the cars. Passengers watched, their fear palpable. Elias felt their eyes, their judgment, but with Rowan beside him, he didn't care. In the baggage car, they found a clue. A bloodied rag, fresh, tucked behind a crate. He's hurt, Rowan said, his voice grim. He's not far. They followed the trail, their steps silent. The train's rhythm was steady now, the repairs holding, but the danger felt closer than ever. In the last car, a maintenance shed, they found him, Malloy, slumped against a wall, his scar stark against his pale face. He was bleeding from a gash on his side, his breathing shallow. Elias knelt, his anger tempered by pity. Who did this? He demanded. Who's behind it? Malloy's laugh was weak, blood flecking his lips. You think you can win? The syndicate, they own everything. You're just a cog. Rowan grabbed Malloy's collar. Names. Now. Malloy's eyes fluttered, but he smirked. Harrow. He's coming for you. Elias's blood ran cold. Harrow, the man from the ledger. The pieces were falling into place, but too slowly. Before he could ask more, Malloy's head lolled, his breath stopping. He was gone. Rowan stood, his face hard. We need to get to Cheyenne. If Harrow's there, we face him on our terms. Elias nodded, but his heart was heavy. The syndicate was a shadow he couldn't outrun, and the ledger was still out there, a ticking bomb of its own. But Rowan's hand on his back gave him strength. Let's go, he said. The train rolled into Cheyenne at dawn, the sky a blaze of orange. Elias stood on the platform, Rowan at his side. As passengers disembarked, their relief palpable. Clara handed him the ledger, her eyes worried. What now, sir? Elias looked at Rowan, then at the ledger. He'd built his empire on secrets, on compromises that haunted him. But he was done hiding. Burn it, he said. All of it. Clara hesitated, then nodded. She took the ledger to a fire barrel, and as the flames consumed it, Elias felt a weight lift. He wasn't free, not yet, but he was closer. Rowan touched his hand, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. You did the right thing, he said. Elias smiled, a real one, for the first time in days. I don't know what's next, he admitted. Harrow, the syndicate, they're still out there. Then we fight him, Rowan said, his voice steady. You and me. Elias looked into his eyes, seeing a future he'd never dared imagine. He was a tycoon, a man of power, but with Rowan he was just Elias, flawed, human, and loved. The train's whistle sounded, a reminder of the world waiting. But for now, they stood together, two men against the odds. The platform buzzed with life, but for Elias, time stopped. He leaned into Rowan, their foreheads touching, and whispered, Thank you. Rowan's smile was soft, his voice a promise. Always. As they walked away, hand in hand, the train behind them gleamed in the morning light. The syndicate loomed, a battle yet to come, but Elias wasn't alone anymore. He'd found something worth more than an empire, a man who saw him, a love that made him brave. The world would judge them, try to break them, but Elias knew one truth. Love, like a train, could not be stopped, and together they'd keep moving forward no matter the cost.